understand what we are going to cover. And then I will also give you time to basically ask me questions. And then we can really go on with the syllabus that how we are actually going to discuss as a part of this Azure DevOps. I hope my voice is pretty much clear now. So there is no problem from my side. And then I can share my screen quickly. So I hope you can see my screen. So as I said, this is again a demo that I wanted to give yesterday, but I could not. But today again, I'm actually going to continue with the demo, and rest of the classes will continue from tomorrow anyways. So as I started yesterday, I don't know how many of you really have joined yesterday's demo, but I really have started explaining the DevOps in pretty much in general terms, taking a real-time use case. So I don't know how many of you really understood development, how really development works, and also what exactly the development really contains for a software to be implemented and so on. But I try to give you a generic overview, taking a real-time use case, and then give you an understanding that how really the development works. And based on the understanding, we try to go further and understand Azure DevOps. So now what I would like to take, I really would like to take an example of, let's say, a WhatsApp. So because the reason that why I was really taking this WhatsApp, because everybody knows and every one of you really using this WhatsApp nowadays. So that is the reason why it can really go faster into understanding, but that's the reason that I really took this example. So let us say that what we already have a WhatsApp in place. So you guys all know that how really WhatsApp really works, right? And then what exactly that the use case that we are going to talk about, the same way, how the WhatsApp is really working. Then let's say being let's say a businessman. So for example, let's say I'm a businessman, and anybody who can really want to have his own application to be developed. So let's say there is a businessman that what he wants to do it. He wants to have a kind of application that similarly works like WhatsApp. So you have seen that we have really many applications available in the internet, such as WhatsApp, and also you have Telegram, and you have Signal, and so on, right? So there are really similar applications available. So what this businessman, this businessman really wants to start really his own application. It works similar to how this WhatsApp really works. So then what happens when businessman really wants to have his own application? Let's say this application called My Chat app. Okay, so the app name is My Chat app, that he really wants to have this software. And then whenever he wants to have this application to be developed, then what he is actually going to do it, he's really going to approach a software company. So as I actually explained yesterday, so a software company, then what this software company actually doing? So this software company is really having an agreement with the businessman that who really wants to have this app to be implemented. So what he wants to do, he really wants to have this app to be implemented so that he can really start business on this particular MyChart app. So you might not know, how really business works, but that is a different thing. That is a different thing together. But only our intention is that whenever a software to be implemented, then how really the process actually goes on. That is pretty much what we really need to understand. So here, let's say that we, as I said, so he wants to have a kind of this app to be implemented, and he approaches a software company. And then whenever he approaches a software company, then what can really happen? The software company will actually ask many kind of questions, that what kind of features that he really wants to have in this particular application. So it is pretty much simple, right? So let's say that you want to construct your home. Whenever you want to construct your home, what you do, you really approach a civil engineer, and then you will explain all your requirements, that how your building should look like and so on. And then they will really start drawing your sketches and everything, and they will give you the plan. The same way, whenever you want to have an application to be implemented, even the same thing happens. He will really start asking, all the kind of requirements, that how, what kind of features that he wants to have, and so on. You already know that how WhatsApp can have multiple features in it. You already have it. So let's say you are able to send messages, you are able to really call each other, you are able to do video calls, and you are actually able to make group video calls and so on. There are many features really available. But I mean, as I said, so when we had world WhatsApp, then what can really happen in the world WhatsApp? You really can't make a video call, you really can't make a video call in the world WhatsApp what you had. It was a world version of the WhatsApp that you had. And also you cannot really have a group video call, whatever you are actually able to do it now. And you cannot really, add some emojis so that you can add it now. And you cannot really do the payments via this WhatsApp since you are actually able to do it now. So it means what I try to give you, I mean, any software to be implemented, any application to be implemented. So the one who really wants to have this application to be implemented, at the beginning, he does not know that all the features to be really implemented. It makes sense, right? So let's say as the technology is actually growing, as the technology is actually driving towards advanced technology, then the requirements and the features are keep on really changing. So the same way that even when he started business, when he really wants to have this application, so he basically gives you very basic features that how he wants to have this application to be implemented. So let's say that the software company really asked all the requirements that what kind of features to be implemented. And then all these requirements are really gathered by this software company. So what do you mean by the requirements here? So what do you mean by the requirements? So it means that, let's say I'm a businessman now, and I'm basically saying that I want to have a call feature in my MyChat app. What I was saying I want to have a call feature. It means if somebody is using my app, then they should be able to make calls each other. And also, if somebody is basically sending them some messages, and they should also be, able to delete the messages immediately if they really don't want to do it. Something like that. These are actually called as features. So now, whatever the features that he needs, he gives all the kind of details in terms of the requirements. And then once these requirements are really gathered, then what can really happen? The software company will actually go and understand that, they actually do the planning. So the planning includes even gathering of the requirements. What exactly the planning contains? The planning contains gathering requirements. So here I would basically say, and then once the requirements are gathered from the person who really wants to have this application to be implemented, then what can happen? they will really start designing that what they have gathered. So it is quite simpler. I mean, whenever you really explain how your building should look like, then the civil engineer will start drawing all the sketches. He will give you the plan, right? That is basically called the architecture of your building, that how it looks like eventually. So that is basically called design. And once the design is pretty much completed, then what can happen, they will really do, they will really start implementing the code. They will start implementing the code. So at this point of time, I'm not really talking about which technology to be used, whether it is a Java, .NET, Python, Golang, or whatever, I was not talking about which technology to be used, but in general terms, that how this process really actually goes on. And then once really they have started implementing it, then what can happen, you have your software ready. What you have really your software ready after basically following all these steps. So then let me just go on further. So as I said, so if you can see in the planning section, what they have done, they really gathered the requirements, they really have a design. But of course, this basically this implementing does not come under this planning, but this is basically what you have. Of course, in the middle, once the requirements are gathered, so they will also do the analysis. So I already explained you what exactly the analysis. The analysis is nothing but whether the information is really gathered are accurate, whether the information is really gathered or sufficient, whether the information is really gathered does not have any kind of missing information. So it is basically, it is a common sense that whenever you provide some kind of inputs to the civil engineer to build your building, then if some information is missed, then what he can do? Of course, he cannot really sketch according to your expectation. So that is the reason why this analysis part is pretty much important, and it means that he will really analyze all the requirements which are really gathered. So that is the reason why the planning contains requirements gathering, and also after requirements gathering, you have this analysis stage. And then once the analysis is done, they will really sketch the architecture, that how the software should look like. And then once everything is really complete, and the next phase, it would be the implementation of the software. So then let's say that the software is implemented here. So you see that I have a software. So I have a software that what the software is really being designed and everything. And then once the software is designed, it does not mean that the software is pretty much ready and it can be given to the customer. So what can happen? The software to be really tested thoroughly. So this is basically called testing phase. This is basically called testing phase. And once the software is really tested, and it is not enough really to say that the software is really working, there is also one more testing team, for example. Then by the customer testing team, they also do the testing of the software, whether it is really working exactly as expected by the customer. So here, let's say that here everything is passed. So the testing is done. This testing is also passed. Then only that will be release it to the customer. That will be release it to the customer. Now the point that I really want to make. So why I need to really discuss all these topics now? So the only point that I would like to say, if you are learning DevOps, what exactly the DevOps contains, the DevOps really contains that you have to support the development process and automate them as fast as possible. It means that whatever you have here till now, so you see that you have this software to be implemented and also tested. and also there is one more testing and also releasing it to the customer. And once it is released to the customer, then you also have called a support given for that particular software, what is really implemented. What exactly the support means? The support is nothing but, so let's say you have downloaded this My Chat app. So let's say that My Chat app is available now, okay, and you have downloaded this My Chat app. Then you really have started, using this My Chat app. But all of a sudden, while you are using some call service via this app, you got some issues. So who is actually going to fix those issues? Of course, right? So the one who really implemented, so they know how exactly the software is really implemented. Then once that is released to the customer, if there are any issues, even this support phase is also pretty much important for any kind of development process. So the reason that why I was really talking about, this is what the whole phases that you support being a DevOps engineer. So now let me just go back to the presentation what I had. So I just explained that the software development has the phases. So if you look at this is basically software development lifecycle, and which contains the phases what we really have discussed so far. And whenever there is a software to be implemented, then immediately what can happen, the planning should happen. It means it basically they gather all the requirements, they will do the analysis, and they will really start designing the software, and then they will really start implementing the code for that software, and then the rigorous testing can happen, and then the release it to the customer. So now if you can see here, the maintenance includes releasing it to the customer and also giving support if there are any issues. Anyways, we basically try to understand in a clear way, but for now this is basically what exactly the software development lifecycle is always followed. So these are the standard phases that everybody has to follow whenever anybody is really implementing any software. So then now where exactly the DevOps comes into picture. So when you see this particular, what you called the software development lifecycle, I said, so the DevOps supports these phases to be automated. It means, let's say that I can just give you an example now. So as I said, in this particular scenario, so what happened? So this businessman gives all the requirements, to the software company. So does it mean that he has provided all the features at once? So he has provided all the features at once? Not really, because if you really see, so in the world WhatsApp, what you had, you don't have this payment methodology. You don't have this video call feature. You don't have this group video call features, and so on. There are many, right? So it means as the technology is actually growing up, the features are also pretty much changing. And it means that anybody, who wants to have this application cannot provide all the features at a time, because the technology really changes. So for example, let's say if he is basically providing few requirements, here I would actually include these few requirements. Then what happens once these features are actually implemented? Let's say this software contains only call service. What this software really contains? This software contains only call service. It does not have a feature that you can do the payments. It does not have the feature you can really do the group video call. It does not have the feature the encryption of the data over the communication, and so on. It means that every feature cannot come in one stretch. So it means So when the software is implemented, for example, let's say this software version, I would say, let's say 1.0. Okay. Now again, this application is being downloaded by many people and they are actually using it. Now the businessman again comes, the businessman again comes here and he will say that he needs again few more, features to be implemented in the software. He needs few more features to be implemented in the software. Then let's say once he basically says that few more requirements, to few more features to be implemented, again the same phase continues. What they'll do, again the software company will gather all the requirements, what kind of features to be implemented, and they will also do the analysis on the new requirements of the features. They will also actually design how the design should look like, and also they will start implementing. And once they really have started implementing, they're really done with the implementation, then this version basically called, let's say, 2.0. And then again, what can happen? This software also will be tested. And also this software again will be tested by the other customer testing team. And then they will be releasing it to the customer. And also now you have a new version of this app and you will download 2.0, or you will upgrade your application to 2.0 version. Now, what is the benefit that you get? You will get a new service called, let's say, a group video call service. Okay. So likewise, if you see that the phases, what we have really, they're really continuing until, there are new features are actually coming up. So this is a continuous process, isn't it? This is a continuous process. So it really continuously happening. It is continuously upgrading new features and adding new features and so on. So it is not really complete. So when you say the software implementation, it is not really complete at once. You keep on really working on the software development, so that those phases are basically being followed for every implementation of the new features. So now the point is, here, when you really say that if you have to do all the spaces in here manually, then that is a tedious job for you. It is a time-taking process, right? So that is the reason why this DevOps really has come into picture. So if you can see that on the left side, I have actually mentioned this. This is a software development lifecycle, which contains all these phases. But what you do in the DevOps, you are actually also supporting the software development lifecycle phases to automate them. So it means that whatever you have the software development lifecycle, once the you can really, once the implementation is done, then what will happen? So there are some phases such as coding, such as building, testing, and releasing it to the customer, and monitoring the system. So you might not know what is a monitoring, but we will discuss that in later. But for now, you see that these are the phases what you also have in the software development lifecycle. So you can say that if you are a DevOps guy and what exactly you are doing, you are really supporting the software development lifecycle to automate them and giving them, giving them the delivery in time. So let's assume that if you don't have this DevOps in place, then you cannot really, do all these tasks automatically. So it means you have to do it, manually. Then, so whenever you basically say CI/CD, many times we use CI/CD, and so on. What exactly the CI/CD? So if you can see here, continuous integration. CI stands for continuous integration. Why? Because once you start planning it and once you start implementing it, once you really start building your project and testing it, this is basically for each phase, it is interlinked with each other. So it means the plan should be done and the code should be done, and the build should be done and test should be done. So you cannot do test if you don't have this, code building and everything. So it means these are really the phases integrated each other. So it means you are basically automating the whole thing. That is the reason why you are actually saying continuous integration. So each phase is dependent on the previous phase. So if you can't do the previous phase properly, then you don't have really a proper continuous integration for what you are actually doing. And then, so what you have, you are actually automating it by using the DevOps process and also the DevOps tools. So anyways, we will just talk about it. And you see that the continuous delivery stands for CD. Continuous delivery is basically what, once you release it to the customer, then that is actually called a delivery of the product to the customer. So that's basically called a continuous delivery. And continuous delivery basically contains the maintenance here. The maintenance contains what are the phases which are actually being displayed here. Anyways, we will discuss that in the later sessions. But now you see that whenever somebody basically asks what exactly the CI/CD, the CI/CD basically refers the continuous integration and delivery. Eventually, you are supporting the software development lifecycle to automate it and provide the delivery in time. So this is something that what exactly this continuous delivery and continuous integration. And then when you really come to these tools, as I said, DevOps is basically a process, and in order to implement that process, you are really using some tools. So there are n number of tools really available in the market. There are n number of tools really available in the market. So when you are basically talking about different tools, it is really kind of confusing for us, right? So which tool that we have to use and so on in order to really automate, the DevOps. So you see that we have this Git, we really have, this Maven, we really have, Jenkins, we really have some Kubernetes, we really have, the Jira, Cloud, and many more, right? So there are pretty much available. There are pretty much many tools really available in the market. Then what exactly the tools that we have to use? That's a main problem that what we are really facing. Then that is where really the cloud services are into picture. So if you can see here, what can really happen? So let's say that you have taken some tools. So let's say you have taken some Git tool. You might not know what is a Git and everything. If you know, that's good. So let's say I have taken some tool called Jenkins in order to implement CI/CD. Okay. And then I basically have taken, let's say, Kubernetes. Okay. And I also have taken some tools and so on, right? These are all tools pretty much available in the market. But if you want to take these tools because they are available for free at first, and then you want to, implement the CI/CD in order to support your development, then what you have to do, being a DevOps guy, what you have to do, you really have to take all these tools and configure for yourself. What exactly? So you configure for yourself. So if at all there are some issues, then who has to fix? You have to fix those issues. If at all there are some upgrades, for example, let's say there is a tool that you are using, you have got a new version, then who has to upgrade? You basically have to upgrade, right? So it means that even if you really want to use all these tools, you really have to install. For that, what you need to do, you need to have even resources. What do you mean by the resources here? The resources are nothing but the virtual machines, the virtual machine that you want to install, and then, you want to configure and everything. So it means that when you really take the tools basically from the market, What exactly it leads to? It leads to the problems that you really have to do everything for yourself. But here, now what we want to do it, we really don't want to take this risk. So then there are really cloud services available. Okay, so there are AWS, there are Azure, there is even, in fact, DigitalOcean and GitLab and many more. You know, they are pretty much available. There are many cloud services available. What they say that, so you guys don't need to worry about the tools. What they will say that you guys don't need to worry about the tools. I will give you DevOps tools. I will give you a service called DevOps service. And then this DevOps service contains all the tools what you really need in order to implement your continuous integration and continuous delivery in order to support your development process. So then which one is really better for you? So it is better to use individual tools and you configure for yourself and you fix your issues, you upgrade for yourself, you maintain resources and so on. Not really, right? So what is the best option here? You take the DevOps service from a cloud service, which is basically Azure in our point of view. So here, this is basically a service called Azure DevOps service. Then this contains all the tools which are really required in order to implement your continuous integration and delivery. You simply use them. So then what can really happen? So if you use these tools, you do not need to configure for yourself. You do not need to fix any issues if they really arrive. And you do not need to care about the upgradation of the tools and so on. So what is the benefit? You can use already predefined tools in order to really implement your continuous integration and delivery. It is pretty much straightforward, and it is pretty much easier for you to use the service instead of really downloading or using individual tools to implement a continuous integration and continuous delivery. So that is basically when the DevOps services from the cloud are pretty much famous here. So now the point is, what are the services that we are actually going to really see in the Azure DevOps service? Because our main focus is really into the Azure DevOps service. So if you can see here and in the diagram in the presentation, so you see that these are the services are really pretty much available. So you see that we have this Azure repo. So we really keep the code using this Azure repo service. Anyways, we will discuss that in detail. And also we use these pipelines in order to really implement your continuous integration and delivery. That is also pretty much easier. It's not really complicated. And then you have boards where you really plan which features to be implemented and so on. This is also one of the services available. And you see that there are also collaboration tools. It means that if you want to get some third-party tool from the outside and integrate with the Azure DevOps, that is also possible. So what exactly it means? So for example, let's say if I actually use Azure DevOps, for example, I have Azure DevOps. And when I have my Azure DevOps, so I have a tool called SonarQube, for example. I have a tool called SonarQube. Anyways, we will discuss that in detail. So I want to integrate this Azure DevOps service with this particular tool. Then that is also possible. So it means there are pretty much other tools with which you can really integrate with Azure DevOps. So that is also possible. So that is the reason why here it is actually collaboration tools. That we will see that how you can really integrate the Azure DevOps with the other tools. And the artifacts, so we don't know the artifact at this point of time. So the artifact is nothing but a binary. So I would say for now, to make you understand, an artifact is a project outcome of any technology. So any project can have an artifact. That artifacts are actually stored here. Then this is a service, artifact service, which will store all the artifacts. But we will discuss what exactly are artifact in going further. And then you also have some test plans. It means that, as I said, whenever there is a software is implemented, then what can happen? Your application should be tested, right? So there are also some test plans service available through which you can do a lot of testing for your application. Okay, so these are the test plans, but anyways, these are not really part of this testing, because our code contains our own unit test and so on. We will discuss what exactly the testing and everything. But anyways, for now, this is also one of the services is pretty much available in the Azure DevOps. So with all these services in place, what I can say that you can really implement your continuous integration and delivery in minutes. So that's basically what are the services are pretty much really available. Now let me just again go back to maybe explaining that how exactly this continuous integration and delivery really looks like in the reality. So as I said, so if you can see here, for example, I have a software code here. So let it be, whether it is the Java, whether it is a .NET, whether it is Python, it does not matter for you. So there is a code. Then when the code is really implemented by the software developers, then there is basically a phase called build. So it means whatever the code is really implemented by the software, that code should be built. So you may not know what exactly the build and what exactly the build process, but we will discuss that in detail. But this is basically called a build stage. Then this is a stage after the code is really written. And then what can happen? So once the build basically is done, then they will also do a kind of testing of your code. So it means whatever the code that you have written, so it makes sense, right? So the code should be tested. Then here, this is a stage where your code is really tested. So let us say that if your code is not really working as expected, then what can happen? Again, it can come back to this stage. So it means if the code is not really working as expected, so if the test results are not really fine, then you really have to fix that particular issue. And then again, you have to start your building of your code. Again, you really have to start testing it. Let's say that this time, so this testing is really passed. Then, as I said, once the testing is really passed, then what can happen? There will be, let's say, one more team who really do the testing, as I said. Okay, and I would say that this is basically customer testing. So in technical terminology, what you can say that this is basically called user acceptance testing. User acceptance testing. And then once this is basically tested, then let's say that your code is failed here. Your code is failed at this particular stage. Then what can happen? Again, they will send back your code to fix the problem. Then again, they will fix the problem. Once the code is really fixed again, and again, it has to go to the same phases. It has to be built. It has to again test this. And once this is tested, again, it will go here. This time it is really passed, for example. Once this testing is also really passed, then what can happen? It can really be released to the customer. So now the reason that why I was really talking about this, Because so in each phase, for example, let's say here you might use Java, you might use Python, you might use Golang, you might use maybe what you called Kotlin or anything, it does not matter for you. So here this is the technology stack. And here, in order to really build process, you may use some tools called Maven. You may use some tools for the .NET. You may use some, tools for the Python. You may use some tools for, JavaScript and so on. There are many tools basically really available in order to really perform this build task. And then in order to really do the testing, so you basically have different kind of testing. Anyways, we will talk about that in clear details. So there are also tools really available in order to do this kind of testing also. And then again, here also there are pretty much, good testing tools available. So then why exactly this is that we have to really discuss. So as I said, here in this particular example, I really talked at the at really high level overview. If you can see here, I talked so here I really talked at high level overview. But in each phase, what you are exactly using, you are really using different tools to really, perform those phases, So then how these phases, how you can use with the Azure DevOps, these all tools are really pretty much integrated with the Azure DevOps. So you can simply use this Azure DevOps so that you can really use whatever the tool you really have to use in any phase that you have here. And also you see that it is not one-time iteration. So if at all your test is failed, then again it will come back. And again, this phase should go on. And again, if the test is failed here, again, it should come back. Again, all these phases should go on. So it means this is completely iterative mode. So these phases are completely, continuously happening until your software is pretty much ready. And in order to really go through all these phases, what we have to implement, using different kind of tools. All those tools are pretty much integrated in the Azure DevOps. This is what we are actually going to do it until we release it to the customer. Now, the point is, when we release it to the customer, then what can happen? So I said support, right? I said support. What exactly the support? For example, let's say there is basically a banking application. Let's say I would call it as HDFC. Then there is a website that it is actually working. All of a sudden, the website is stopped working. All of a sudden, this website is really stopped working. Then who will really monitor, Who will really monitor? So it means you being a human, you cannot really keep your eye for 24/7, right? What you take the help of the tools. You take the help of the tools. Those tools are actually called monitoring tools, such as Prometheus. There are n number of tools really pretty much available in the market. So these tools also will be used, and they are also pretty much integrated with the Azure DevOps. So it means the main thing that what I was saying. So in this whole process of really, implementing your software till the release to the customer and monitoring that particular application really includes lots of tools to be used. So those are all pretty much, integrated with the Azure DevOps. So you can simply use them, on the fly. So now there are many confusions really comes into picture, that what exactly the DevOps engineers will do it as a role. So obviously you basically you will be a part of some code, for example, because you have to implement some pipelines. These are pretty much easy to use. It's not too complicated like other programming language. This is not programming language at all anyways. And then you are responsible for doing this phase. You are responsible, for the whole process, that how it's really happening. So one thing I would really say that being a DevOps engineer, what you should know better, you should know that the process well, what exactly the process should be. Then if you know the process, you will implement that process using tools. And if you implement using those tools and your process is in place, then your delivery of the product and also your quality of the product is pretty much good at the end. So now how can I say that the quality of the product is pretty much good? Because let's say that you are basically writing a code here, and then it goes to the build process, it goes to the testing, and then they will do the testing of your code. Let's say your code is not really working fine. Then what can happen? It can come back, right? It can come back to fix that problem. So it is happening, till that the code is really working fine. So what does it mean? It means that if the code is not really working, then the phase, it is not really go to the next phase. So it means the quality of the code you are checking early in the stage, right? So it means it gives you really a good quality for the code. So that is how you also get the good quality when you are really, implementing this CI/CD. So anyways, this is something that with respect to how exactly the CI/CD really looks like. And when I actually go to the syllabus, so if you can see here, this is basically the syllabus that what we are actually going to cover. So you see that we are actually going to cover the introduction with respect to this software development lifecycle, how it works, and what are the really available methodologies and so on. And then once that is complete, we will understand the Git. And this Git tool is pretty much being used across the software companies. Then this is also being pretty much discussed in our syllabus. And also, as I mentioned, in order to really support the build process, we have basically 2 tools and we are actually using, but there are many depending on the technology stack being used. But anyways, these are pretty much being understood in our classes. And then come down. So as I mentioned, we have this Azure DevOps repo as one of the services. Then we also understand how this Azure DevOps repo really works in the Azure DevOps. And then the SonarQube. So the SonarQube is also being pretty much used in order to find the quality of the code, but you may not know what is the quality of the code at this point of time. We will see that the SonarQube tool also. And then we try to basically understand what are the CA tools available, but our focus is pretty much into the Azure DevOps. So here you actually can see that Azure pipelines are basically being pretty much discussed in order to implement your CI/CD. And also we have this Azure DevOps artifacts where we store our binaries. Of course, if you don't know the binary, what exactly it is, but you do not need to worry. We will see that later. And then you see that, so you see that we also have this Azure DevOps CI/CD, and we implement the continuous integration and delivery with all the knowledge that what we have got in the previous sections. And then once you come down, we also have this this is copied, duplicated, and also we understand this containers, that how really containers can be used really to use in our what you call regular applications. So these are the topics with respect to Docker that we are actually discussed in our syllabus. And also we will basically discuss the Azure services. It means that you won't get Azure administration all the services. You will get to understand the services which are needed for your DevOps topics. And then infrastructure as a code, it is also pretty much important for being a DevOps engineer. But anyways, in the infrastructure as a code, I'm actually going to talk about one of the tools which is pretty much famous is Terraform, and also we will discuss its ARM templates. These are pretty much being used in the Azure vastly. So this is also we will discuss in our syllabus. And then, so we basically discuss this Kubernetes. So Kubernetes also is pretty much used. These are the topics can be covered in our Azure Kubernetes service, especially from the Azure point of view. And then, of course, this keyword is also one of the services is pretty much being used. So this also you should know, because this is one of the services which is pretty much being a DevOps engineer, you should know. And then you see that we have some kind of Azure DevOps nodes. So we will understand what are the Azure DevOps nodes and everything. Then, yeah, so these are the topics. And these are all topics that we are actually going to cover as a part of this syllabus. And also, you might know that the price for this course is 16,000. And also, you will get videos, and you will have an accessibility for 1 year. And you can really watch the recorded sessions for 1 year for free of cost. So I think these are the details. And also, I have a group. I can give you the group so that you guys can, I think you might have got into the chat. You can really join in the groups so that you guys can get the updates from the Ashok IT if you really have any with respect to that. So this is something with respect to what exactly we are going to discuss as a part of this Azure DevOps course. Now, I think I would actually try to give you time, and also this is just a demo. And tomorrow we really continue with the topics that what we have, and you can for sure you can attend even tomorrow also. And then yeah, so we continue with the topics. So tomorrow also we have a class, so you can really join tomorrow's class as well. So I can give you a time for you guys to ask me questions. Then yeah, you can ask me questions if you have any.
Hello, Lakshman. This is Ritesh.
Yes, Ritesh.
So I'm going with AWS and DevOps, right? So so I continue my class, AWS class with Ashok IT. So I want to start with the DevOps topic only.
Okay.
So from where or which topic we can continue?
No. See, the point is when you're learning this AWS, you are learning AWS Cloud or AWS DevOps?
AWS DevOps.
Okay, so as I said, AWS DevOps services are pretty much different, and Azure DevOps services are pretty much different. The way that you use, okay? So you cannot come in the middle and only learn how the DevOps pipelines will be implemented. Okay, so you need to know the background. For example, you may have to start with this Azure DevOps repo that we basically have in the topic. For example, from here you really have to start with, and then you really have to complete till this Azure DevOps CI/CD. So these are all topics that needs to be covered if you really want to learn this Azure DevOps. Only DevOps I'm talking about.
Okay.
Of course, I am not saying, I think if you are learning AWS DevOps, you might get even SonarQube and other tools. You already might have got that knowledge, I'm not sure. But still, if what are the topics that I was saying, only with respect to how you implement CI/CD pipelines. Yes.
I have one doubt.
Yeah.
That is, you mentioned 1 year validity. That means it takes 1 year to complete this course.
No. So let's say this course basically takes from 45 days to 2 months. Then if at all you really want to watch again videos back, you can have an access for 1 year. That is what I meant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Lakshman.
Hi.
Do you provide any job assistance, like any calls for the after completion of this course?
Calls, you mean the interviews that can be given, or what exactly you mean?
Yeah, that's all I mean.
So no, I mean, see, the interviews will not be conducted, and you will put your experience, and then you will be, if you have any kind of questions, and then you will be given an assistance for that. So for example, you might actually talk to the Ashok IT, and they can give you some kind of practice for your interviews, maybe something like that, and then you can get the assistance such as.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions, guys? I hope the voice is pretty much clear today, right? So you don't have any disturbance today.
Yes, clear.
Okay, good. Okay, so feel free to ask me questions. There's no problem. You can for sure ask me questions.
After this sessions and the completion of classes, are we just kindly asking you, are we able to work in the on job company?
So yes, Ram. So I would say whatever I basically teach and what I'm actually doing in my day to day. So it means if you learn just like that, and if you just don't practice well, then I cannot really promise you. You have to practice well after learning it for sure, then you will be able to do it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, hi Lakshman, I have one query.
Yeah.
Are we going to deploy the code into the Kubernetes instances, or else we are going to use the web app services?
No, we also deploy into web app service, and also we deploy into the Kubernetes, the containers.
Okay. It means that are we going to deal with the Docker and Kubernetes also?
Yeah. That's what it includes, the Docker and Kubernetes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Any other questions, guys?
And when will be the actual registration? Then what
So
will be
you basically can start registration. So there's no time for that. You can really talk to Ashok IT and you can register for yourself.
okay.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi, Lakshman. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Actually, I have a doubt, sir. Okay, actually, I am a different domain. Actually, my age also 39 around. So actually, I have learned the DevOps with the AWS. If I try to apply the job now, they're always asking experience. 2 years, 3 years for DevOps. Anybody telling they're asking only experience, 3 years, 4 years like that. I am a fresh graduate. So how can I get the job? This
you are a fresh graduate.
Yeah. This for this field, I am fresh. This one.
No. See, it does not matter. So, when was your what you called passing year?
Just 2 months before I have completed this DevOps.
No. I'm not talking about DevOps. I'm talking about your education qualification passing year.
2005.
2005. And from which domain that you are actually before?
Actually, I'm working in chemical engineer and I have experienced 16 years that time.
Okay. Yeah. So see, the point, maybe I would really be frank with you. So either you really have to say that you really want to jump into this Azure DevOps, and then what you can do, you can put maybe 3-4 years of experience, because you might say that you have got an opportunity to jump into this IT, and then I really got an opportunity to start working in IT. You can put your experience, and then you can really, search for jobs. So see, one thing I really would say, I should not really say that. In fact, they will ask you for the experience, because they really have to show the experience for the candidates with whom they are really hiring. So it means that is their requirement, and you really have to fulfill that requirement in any way. So then if you learn it properly, and if you are pretty much confident what you learned and what you can implement, then do the way that I actually suggested, then it is up to you that you really want to take it forward or not. And I have one more student in my current branch. So he's also, I think he's also from the different domain. I see that he's really basically understanding well, and he's really doing well. So that's basically what the experience which I had. But still, I would say, if you are able to do it, then you can really proceed. Otherwise, I will not really say anything, because that is up to you. But there are ways, the other people also do this.
Understood. Already
Yeah.
many people there keep the experience in the resume.
Yes.
Actually,
Yes.
they're starting questions now, the interview.
Yeah.
Tell me about your current organization, what are you doing, like this, they're asking.
Yeah.
Then how can I say this? Because I'm not working, actually.
We can talk about this offline.
Okay.
So I'm sorry for that. I cannot really talk about this online, being a faculty. So yeah.
Okay, sir.
That's a different story. So once we complete the course, then we can talk about it one of the sessions.
Okay. Sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Basically, but yeah, domain doesn't matter for this DevOps, because I basically found the mechanism.
I'm sorry, Ram, you're saying something, right?
Yeah, I just saying that domain doesn't matter, right?
See, the point is, domain does not matter if you are confident and if you learned well.
Yeah, right.
That is what I was saying. So if you don't learn, then
I'm also from the different way. I'm from mechanical.
It does not matter. So you don't worry about it. So if people are really from the cross domains, and if they are pretty much putting hard work, if they are really able to deliver it, then that's more than enough.
Right.
Hello.
Yes.
So I'm not actually thinking about the domain. There is a big problem for me. But they're asking the questions now. If I have really worked that, then I can.
No, we will for sure. We will talk about that, Durai. So for sure. So no problem. I understand. So they will ask you some tricky questions with respect to your current organization, your role, how did you get it, what was the way that how did you get it after working in a chemical domain, how you really got the opportunity and everything. So these are all that they really like to dig into. But anyways, we will really talk about that offline.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Is it okay to share syllabus documentation? Yes, of course you can. So, okay, so you're asking me. You can get it from the Ashok IT. I will upload the syllabus in the Ashok IT. Yeah, I can do that. So any other questions, guys? But are you able to understand today that what we really talked, and are you able to follow?
Yes. If you are going to this way, that yes, definitely yes.
Okay. Okay, then I think if you don't have any questions, then we can wind up the call and we can continue tomorrow. Yeah.